Is there anything that you want to see more of from Dylan Gabriels, or something that's maybe he's left on the table? Because obviously he's done a real good job engineering the number one team in the country. He's had a very good college football career. But is there something in his game that maybe he even says, you know what, I got to be better at this?
Yeah, I think there's no question about it. The turnovers in the red zone, we saw one at Wisconsin, and it was a tipped ball that was picked off, but it was tipped because it was thrown a little bit behind the receiver. And it's been a handful of turnovers now down the red zone for him. He's a guy who, he's an aggressive guy. He's a smart guy, but he's aggressive. He's looking to make plays. And so, some of those mistakes in the red zone, again, you talk about, what kind of a momentum play that long pass to Ferguson could have been early in the second half. Well, that turnover in the red zone in the first half, if that doesn't happen and Oregon scores there, you put Wisconsin in a hole, and that's just not a team that was built to come from behind, dig itself out of a big gap. So that game could have gone, much differently if Oregon had been able to capitalize better on some opportunities. There were a couple field goals early. If you're able to score touchdowns there instead of get field goals, or if you're able, if you could avoid that turnover. So I think, for him, it's pretty simple. Those turnovers in the red area have it's cropped up. I think it's 4 interceptions across 3 different games. So, I'm sure he would be the first to say, that's something that he's got to clean up, because, in an important game, and hopefully there's a few of those coming up in the next several weeks for Oregon. Those can just be so costly.
I have to ask you Jordan James, because a lot of people are going to talk about him with the draft, and they're going to say, well, his size very similar to Bucky Irving. So tell me what the difference is between Jordan James and Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably an oversimplification, but Jordan James is looking to run through you, and Bucky can, but Bucky's elusiveness is just so special that, he's going to try to make a guy miss and get to the next level that way. Jordan James is just he's that guy who's going to put his pads down, put his head down, and just run right through you. And we saw, even it didn't strike me as much during the game. It struck me during the fourth quarter that he was moving at a different speed than everyone else. But watching the first half, as I just was a little bit earlier this afternoon, when he gets the ball, he is immediately going at top speed, and again, just trying to run right through the line, right through whatever defender's in his way, and go. I assume more. There'll be questions about his elusiveness, about his high end speed, things like that. But in terms of a power guy who his feet move quick and he gets rolling and he builds up a head of steam in it, and at least at this level. You got to watch out. He is really hard to bring down. The difference for him is between him and a lot of guys is, he's not turning it a lot of 10-yard runs into 20-yard runs.
Yep.
But he sure is piling up a lot of 10-yard runs, 15-yard runs, things like that. And again, 65 of his 121 yards were on those 2 scoring drives that led to points in the fourth quarter at Wisconsin. Just a huge, huge difference maker for this team in that game when the chips were down.
Wow, the tight end class is going to be outstanding. And Ferguson is one of them.
Yeah, just a really athletic guy who can catch the ball. He can get down the field. Early in the second half against Wisconsin, he should have had a deep ball for a go-ahead touchdown to open the second half, and just lost his footing and wasn't able to get under it. But probably makes the catch, scores a touchdown right there, and who knows if Oregon's able to build some momentum off that, the way the rest of that game plays out. But again, lost his footing, but as a guy who can get behind the defense as he
does
and really, really stretch the field.
Yes.
He late in the game, first play of the fourth quarter, comes up with a really clutch catch with a guy all over him, a couple different arms, hands reaching for the ball between him and Dylan Gabriel, is able to keep his concentration and just make a huge catch on a fourth down play to extend a drive and keep things rolling. It really was the critical play of that game, because you're at Camp Randall Stadium. They've just played jump around, obviously, as they do at the end of the third quarter. The place is going nuts. Oregon's looking at a 4-9. Wisconsin's got the lead, smelling blood. And then the Ducks come out, make a huge play, drive to a tying touchdown, and kind of take the life out of the place, really flip momentum. And Ferguson's the guy who catches that ball. So it was a great throw, but a great catch as well. So, yeah, he's a guy who I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level for sure.
Yeah, you made the great point there, because I was going to jump on it as well, which is, but not many tight ends can actually get down the field the way Ferguson did,
Right.
even though he wasn't able to, which I can remember looking at it and going, wait, that's Ferguson?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I couldn't believe for a tight end he was all the way down the field like that, but that just shows you why he's special.
I think we talked about it preseason, though. Kenyon Sadiq is a guy you really need to have your eye on the next couple of years for this offense, because you talk about an athletic freak at the tight end position, and they're finding a lot of different ways to get him the ball. We've seen it, run plays, screens, streaking up the seam, just all kinds of different ways to get him involved, because he's a guy you want with the ball in his hands, just a freaky combination of size and athleticism. And so, when Ferguson moves on, the tight end spot's going to be in good hands still. Teo Uiagalelei?
Yeah, that's it. Because he's actually, we saw him make some big plays, obviously. The plays were just awesome in the Wisconsin game. And you talk, of course, with Birch being out, so he steps up. How good can he be? How do you compare him to some of the other pass rushers and defenders that you've seen there?
Yeah, you look at his versatility, and I think you don't have to go too far back to Kayvon Thibodeau, a guy who could put his hand on the ground. I think I look back at, I think it was the 2019 Pac-12 championship game against Utah. There were times Thibodeau would basically line up at nose against a really physical team in Utah, and it was an impact player in that game, playing that role amongst others, but also a guy who could stand up on the edge and wreak havoc that way. And Mateo's a guy who's doing that as well. He was much more of a stand-up edge guy when Jordan Birch has been available, but he's been able to slide down, put his hand on the ground, and play much more with his hand on the ground with Birch out, and be just as effective, if not more so. So he's a guy who's, I think he's second in the Big Ten in sacks right now, 12th nationally. I think the top 15 in the Big Ten in sacks. He's the only one with an interception, and what a play that was to clinch the victory in Wisconsin. So, former 5-star recruit, who's just, his ceiling is really, really high. And, I think he's that perfect combination that is so rare, but you love to find it when you can, of a guy who has elite gifts, but then comes out to practice every day and just seems to enjoy the work every day. All of us who go to work every day know that, it's not every day you go bebopping through the front door of the office, stoked to be there. Some days you're just punching the clock. We're all guilty of that. And, Mateo is very rarely guilty of that, if ever, in practice. I mean, he just is a guy who seems to really enjoy the process. And so when you combine that kind of a passion and work ethic with all of his gifts, just a really, really elite talent who with a really, really high ceiling.
He's a true sophomore?
Yeah.
Wow. Even more impressive.
Got him for another year, thankfully. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we all appreciate that.